Australia's economic story is one of remarkable transformation, evolving from a modest colonial outpost into one of the wealthiest nations in the world. In the 19th century, the discovery of gold and the expansion of agriculture laid the foundations for rapid economic growth. Watch the video until the end, write your comments about the subject in the comments and subscribe. Do not forget to like the video. The gold rushes attracted not only local settlers but also migrants from all over the world, boosting Australia's population and economic activity. As a result, cities expanded, infrastructure was developed, and the country's economy began to shift from one based primarily on agriculture to one that also embraced mining and industry. By the mid-20th century, Australia had firmly established itself as a highly developed economy, recognized globally for its mining sector and robust financial institutions. Watch the video until the end, write your comments about the subject in the comments and subscribe. Do not forget to like the video. Throughout much of the 20th century, Australia's wealth was closely tied to its abundant natural resources. The country's vast mineral deposits, including iron ore, coal, and natural gas, helped make Australia a key player in the global resource market. The mining boom that began in the late 20th century and continued into the 21st century made Australia one of the largest exporters of minerals, particularly to countries like China, which fueled its industrialization. The export of these resources drove significant economic growth, attracting foreign investment and creating thousands of jobs. This resource-driven prosperity spurred the development of major infrastructure projects, including roads, ports, and energy networks, and raised the standard of living for Australians across the country. In addition to the mining sector, Australia's agriculture, tourism, and financial services industries have played critical roles in the nation's economic success. Australia has long been a major exporter of agricultural products like wheat, wool, and beef, and its world-class education and healthcare systems have attracted international students and retirees. The country's financial institutions, particularly its banks, have also contributed to the economy's resilience, offering a range of services that support both domestic and international trade. Watch the video until the end, write your comments about the subject in the comments and subscribe. Do not forget to like the video. However, recent developments have raised concerns about Australia's economic future. In 2024, the country's economy recorded its slowest growth in 32 years, with GDP per capita declining for the first time since the early 1990s, excluding the pandemic period. This slowdown has been attributed to a combination of internal and external factors. High inflation, driven in part by rising energy costs and supply chain disruptions, has put pressure on household budgets and contributed to higher living expenses. At the same time, elevated interest rates, designed to combat inflation, have made borrowing more expensive, leading to a decline in consumer spending and a cooling housing market. The housing sector, once a major driver of the economy, has seen prices stagnate or fall in many areas, creating uncertainty for homeowners and potential buyers alike. In addition to these challenges, the Australian government's fiscal policies have come under increasing scrutiny. Recent reports have indicated that Australia is facing a growing budget deficit, with federal debt projected to exceed $1 trillion by 2026. Critics argue that the government spending, particularly on public sector wages, infrastructure projects, and migration, has been reckless, contributing to economic instability. Despite efforts to reduce the deficit, Australia continues to face significant fiscal pressures as the government struggles to balance public spending with the need for long-term economic sustainability. As a result, many Australians are feeling the effects of this instability in their everyday lives, with inflation eroding purchasing power and economic growth failing to meet expectations. The labor market is also showing signs of strain, with wage growth slowing more than anticipated. While the unemployment rate remains relatively low, many workers are experiencing stagnating wages, which is contributing to a sense of economic insecurity. The Reserve Bank of Australia has noted that despite the tight labor market, inflation is proving more persistent than expected, creating challenges for both businesses and households. This has led to concerns about the long-term stability of the Australian economy and whether the current economic model is sustainable in the face of changing global conditions. The global economic environment also plays a critical role in shaping Australia's economic future. Geopolitical tensions, trade wars, and fluctuations in global commodity prices have impacted Australia's trade relationships and the demand for its resources. The country is heavily reliant on exports, particularly to China, and any disruption in these relationships can have a significant impact on economic growth. Additionally, supply chain disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as more recent events such as the conflict in Ukraine, have added further uncertainty to the global economy, affecting Australia's ability to maintain stable growth. In light of these challenges, Australia is at a critical juncture. The country must navigate a rapidly changing global economic landscape while addressing domestic fiscal and labor market issues. The government will need to implement policies that not only support the recovery from the current downturn but also position the economy for long-term success. This may involve diversifying the economy away from a heavy reliance on resource exports, investing in new technologies and industries, and ensuring that infrastructure and public services are sustainable in the face of a growing population. Additionally, reforms to the labor market and fiscal policies will be necessary to address the rising cost of living and ensure that wage growth keeps pace with inflation. Watch the video until the end, write your comments about the subject in the comments and subscribe. Do not forget to like the video. Australia's economic future depends on the choices made today. If the country can adapt to the evolving global realities, invest in innovation, and develop a more diversified economy, it may continue to thrive in the years to come. However, failure to address the challenges of fiscal instability, stagnating wages, and global economic shifts could undermine Australia's prosperity and lead to a prolonged period of economic stagnation. The decisions made now will shape the economic landscape of the future and determine whether Australia can maintain its status as one of the world's most prosperous nations. Watch the video until the end, write your comments about the subject in the comments and subscribe. Do not forget to like the video. Australia is a unique island nation, known for its geographical isolation and vast natural resources. Historically, its journey to economic success began as a colony of the United Kingdom, transitioning toward independence in 1901. Today, it is one of the wealthiest nations globally, boasting high living standards and economic resilience. The country's wealth is largely attributed to its treasure trove of natural resources, including iron ore, coal, gas, and gold. Australia is the world's largest exporter of iron ore, and its exports have been a cornerstone of the economy, especially during the mining booms of the 2000s and 2010s. These periods saw a surge in demand for raw materials from rapidly industrializing economies like China, which fueled Australia's economic growth and raised living standards significantly. Despite the immense prosperity brought by its resources, Australia faces challenges tied to its economic structure. The heavy reliance on mining has led to vulnerabilities, including fluctuations in commodity prices and an overvalued currency that hampers other industries like manufacturing and agriculture. While sectors such as engineering benefited from the mining boom, others, such as textiles, suffered from heightened competition due to higher exchange rates. Australia's economic resilience has been bolstered by its immigration policies, which have fueled population growth and economic activity. Migration, particularly in the education and skilled labor sectors, has played a critical role in maintaining economic dynamism. Population growth has been a significant driver of GDP, distinguishing Australia from other developed nations with slower demographic changes. However, Australia's economy also grapples with long-term challenges. The resource curse, a phenomenon where resource-rich countries experience slower growth, has largely been mitigated through strong governance and regulatory frameworks. Yet, the economy remains concentrated in low-complexity exports, such as mining and agriculture, lacking the diversification and sophistication of other developed nations. Geographical isolation adds another layer of complexity to Australia's economic landscape. Dependence on maritime logistics, high transportation costs, and limited integration into a densely connected economic region constrain its ability to compete globally. While it continues to generate significant wealth from exports, its geographical disadvantages and lack of economic diversification pose risks to sustaining long-term prosperity. In summary, Australia's economic journey reflects a mix of strategic resource utilization, migration-driven growth, and structural challenges. Its ability to adapt and innovate in the face of these challenges will determine whether it can transition from being a lucky country to a globally competitive economic powerhouse. Australia, an island nation with vast natural resources, has built a strong economy that ranks as the 13th largest in the world. Yet, its economic complexity has been steadily declining, dropping from 57th to 82nd globally between 1995 and 2021. In contrast, its top trading partner, China, has risen from 51st to 25th in the same timeframe. Economic complexity matters because it enables countries to produce diverse, high-value products, ensuring stability during global economic shifts and fostering innovation in response to technological changes. Australia's reliance on unsophisticated exports like iron ore highlights this growing vulnerability. Iron ore, Australia's largest export, is heavily dependent on Chinese demand. Despite tensions between the two countries, China continues to import Australian iron ore because it lacks a viable alternative supplier. However, this dependence presents significant risks, especially as geopolitical dynamics evolve. One of Australia's persistent challenges is its low productivity growth, which has remained stagnant for decades. Productivity, measured as output per worker, is crucial for improving living standards and maintaining economic momentum. Dynamic economies thrive on innovation, entrepreneurship, and risk-taking, yet Australia consistently underperforms in these areas. It ranks poorly in global competitiveness metrics, particularly in entrepreneurship, workplace efficiency, and skill development. Businesses struggle to access the talent they need, and investment in research and development remains low compared to other advanced economies. Geography also shapes Australia's economic landscape. Most of its population resides along the coast, with cities like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane serving as economic hubs. Urban sprawl in these cities has increased the demand for housing, infrastructure, and utilities. Housing, in particular, has become a defining feature of the Australian economy. Property ownership is deeply ingrained in the national psyche, symbolizing wealth and security. However, housing affordability has plummeted, driven by surging demand, rising construction costs, and restrictive planning regulations. Over the past 2 decades, Australia's population has grown by over 30%, largely due to high immigration rates. This has fueled housing demand, while supply has been constrained by local zoning laws and skyrocketing material costs. The collapse of over 1,500 construction firms since 2021 has further reduced the availability of new homes, exacerbating the housing crisis. The result is a housing market where prices are inflated far beyond their underlying costs, creating a fragile bubble of paper wealth that reached 9 trillion Australian dollars in 2021, over 4 times the country's GDP. This narrow economic structure, heavily reliant on mining and housing, leaves Australia vulnerable. Commodity price cycles and the finite nature of non-renewable resources pose long-term risks. Furthermore, global efforts to reduce carbon emissions threaten Australia's fossil fuel exports. While resource extraction will remain a cornerstone of the economy due to geography, diversification is essential for sustainable growth. Australia's economic strategy remains overly simplistic, centered on selling houses and extracting resources. This approach has generated significant wealth but masks a deeper failure to invest in industries and skills that could secure a more stable future. Unlike countries such as South Korea, which transformed itself into a high-tech powerhouse through strategic planning and innovation, Australia lacks a cohesive vision for its economic future. Without significant reforms and investments, Australia risks falling behind in an increasingly complex and competitive global economy. Australia, an island nation rich in natural resources, has built a prosperous economy by leveraging its mining industry and fostering immigration-driven population growth. It ranks among the wealthiest nations per capita, with a robust export-oriented economy centered on minerals like iron ore, coal, and gas. Despite its wealth, the country faces challenges related to economic diversification, productivity, and housing affordability. The cornerstone of Australia's wealth lies in its abundant resources. As the world's largest exporter of iron ore, the mining sector has been a significant contributor to national income, driven largely by demand from China. Additionally, Australia has showcased remarkable economic resilience by weathering the global financial crisis and avoiding recessions for nearly 3 decades. Population growth, fueled primarily by immigration, has further bolstered the economy by supplying essential skills and labor. Transparent regulatory frameworks governing resource extraction have also helped Australia avoid the resource curse often seen in resource-rich countries. However, Australia faces notable challenges. The economy lacks diversification and is heavily reliant on low-complexity exports like minerals and agricultural products. This limited complexity leaves the country vulnerable to shifts in global demand or technological advancements. Geographic isolation adds to this challenge, with high transportation costs and distance from major markets impacting trade efficiency. Housing affordability has become a pressing issue. Property prices have surged due to restrictive zoning laws, high construction costs, and speculative investments. This has created a housing market that is increasingly inaccessible to average citizens. Additionally, Australia struggles with low productivity growth. Limited investment in research and development and poor rankings in entrepreneurship point to a lack of dynamism in the business environment. To secure long-term stability, Australia must focus on economic diversification, investing in high-value industries such as technology, advanced manufacturing, and renewable energy. These efforts could mirror the success of countries like South Korea, which transitioned from an agrarian economy to a technological leader. Policies aimed at enhancing innovation, skills development, and entrepreneurial activity are critical to driving competitiveness. Addressing housing affordability requires reforms in zoning laws, streamlined planning processes, and incentives for affordable housing development. Australia stands as a paradox, an economic powerhouse built on a narrow base of resource exports and housing speculation. While it enjoys wealth and resilience, the country risks long-term stagnation if it fails to address its structural deficiencies. By fostering innovation, diversifying its economy, and implementing sustainable housing policies, Australia can secure its place among the world's leading economies.